I was in Switzerland, I saw so much Helvetica, dude.
Yeah,
It was
I
so
bet.
much. It was so good. It was like a paradise of Helvetica.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Jesse Nyberg Podcast. Today we're here with Geo. Super excited to chat with him. Known him online for a little bit. He's a digital nomad, traveling all around the world, designing. How you doing, man?
Well, this week I climbed a mountain in the Alps,
Oh
and
shit!
I just like I think I walked over 40 kilometers just over like the
Damn.
entire course, and then I missed my bus because I looked in the Google and I thought it was at 7 p.m. the bus, but
Mm-hmm.
it was actually at 7 a.m. and there was no more buses left, so I hitchhiked my way back into the city, which took me a couple more hours after that. But
Where are you
yeah,
at right
that
now?
was right now I'm in Serbia. I'm not in
Oh, okay.
Switzerland anymore. But at the beginning of the week, I was in Switzerland, and I'm currently in Serbia, outside of the European zones because my visa has expired, and now I'm
When you
continuing my travels.
when you travel from place to place, are you buying the next one, or are you just getting there and then when you want to go somewhere else, then you'll buy the ticket to the next place?
The second one, I usually don't know where I want to go next, and then I just like decide when I get to the next place. Like, okay, do I want to stay here a bit longer, or do I want to go to the next one? And then I decide from there. However, um, there sometimes I do have goals. Like I want to
Yeah.
be by this time in this place, and then I just try to make that work. And then in between, kind of like adjust my way as I go. And yeah,
Right. And will you stay longer if it's like you end up really liking the spot or something?
yeah, exactly. For example, UK, the place I've never been to UK before. My plan was to stay there for like 2 weeks, 2 weeks
Yeah.
max. I ended up staying there for 3 months.
Oh, damn.
I just like really enjoyed. I don't know why. I think it's the accent. Just like the accent,
They
different
charmed you?
people. Yeah, it was very charming.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's cool. And you're
cause
from like Canada originally, right?
correct. Yeah, my family, we all moved to Canada when I was like really young, and then I lived there and for a very long time since like my young age, and also like studied graphic design there, and yeah, just been in Canada the entire time and US a couple times, but nowhere else outside, and just recently started traveling.
Yeah. Cause I know you were working, I believe when I talked to you like a while ago, you were just working at a studio in, or an agency or whatever in Canada. And then I know you went freelance, but what kind of inspired you to not only go out on your own, but actually start, living this more like get up and go nomadic lifestyle?
I think there's a lot of factors, like a lot of small factors. For example, I think one of the biggest inspiration is like watching the movies, and you know how they always like motivate you to like get out and like go outside, be a bit more
Yeah.
spontaneous, and then be a bit more adventurous. For example, I remember a scene from like Benjamin Button. I don't know, like the life of Benjamin Button. You know
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
his life goes backwards, and as younger he gets, the more spontaneous he gets, and like he wants to adventure. I remember watching it when I was like really young, and I just like wanted to like, oh wow, so like in my head I was like, so I have to travel, okay, good, and that stayed in my head. And then a couple more movies like Walter Mitty movie, and then others, and basically, and then we hit COVID, and then when you hit COVID, it's like everything's like rock bottom, like
Right.
everything is like so stale, nothing's happening, and you're trying to like figure out. And the thing is like hit my head is, oh, I can work from home. And then if I can work from home, then I can work from anywhere in the world.
Right.
So then that idea kind of like slowly grew in my head, and then I basically, pushed myself to be a bit more outside. And I think it's like kind of like thanks to COVID, like made me realize that, I can be more than just an office designer, I guess, or just staying inside and like, not doing anything else basically.
Right. When you first, kind of just left your job or whatever, cause you're like 100% freelance right now, right?
Yeah.
What did you have any, because I think a question I always get, and a lot of people, I'm curious on their situation, because when you do that, unless you have like this crazy list backlog of people like waiting to work with you, it's always a risk, you know. But I'm curious, what was your situation like? Were you kind of nervous, or did you already know like you had some clients lined up, or was it more of a risk?
I was fortunate enough to have a bit of a clients, just a bit of them, and then gain a bit of
Mm-hmm.
experience. So while working full time, I would also work like kind of like part-time freelance
Yeah.
and just do a bit on the side, like building that reputation. And I'm really grateful for that. Like those people like trusted me. And then when I quit my full-time job, when I transitioned fully freelance, I just asked them like, yo, do you have any like more work for me? And they
Mm-hmm.
would just say like, yeah, we actually have more work, and here you
Yeah.
go. And then just like that, it's like I think I was like really lucky too, that when I finished the work with them, more people started coming. And
Right.
then also the thing is I realized is when I completed the job, it was for the bigger client. And then when the bigger client posts about the job, more people see it, and then more people ask like
Mm.
who did it. And then they kind of like reach out to me. And slowly like that, it just started like growing and growing. And then on Instagram, I kind of like, it just, one of my posts just blew up out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And other people started seeing, and then they'll just like message me on Instagram. And then usually, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But, it's
Right.
always, I feel like it's always a risk,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a lot of hassle.
Yeah, I always have trouble answering those kind of questions too, because, um, like sometimes people will ask me like, how do I get clients, or like, what should I do online to find work or whatever? And it feels like it's kind of a almost impossible like solution, because the solution is like get clients because they'll get you more, but then you have to get the original one somehow, you know? But most of my work has come from a few projects that kind of branched out and them referring. So like, I don't get
Mhm.
a lot of random like messages anymore, but I'll get emails and stuff from people that will say like, oh, you worked on this, blah, blah, blah. Or like this person told me about you, rather than like just someone in the DM. So I think it's important to, like do well on the projects that you are in the beginning. That way you have like a good reputation and people keep referring you and stuff.
Yeah, 100%. It's like building that reputation. And I think that reputation building never ends. You
Mm-hmm.
always just like try to give in as much as you can, and you basically see the results, and
Right.
you start getting more and then you
Mm-hmm.
start giving back more, and it keeps growing. It's a
Right.
infinite
What do you
loop.
think are some of the biggest pros and cons of living this kind of like digital nomad lifestyle, but specifically working as a designer?
Pros and cons. I'll start with the cons. I think the cons is is that okay? Is that okay if I
Yeah,
start with
yeah, no,
cons?
you're good.
Yeah, okay.
Start off,
um,
give them the good stuff later.
okay, I think the cons is being lonely,
Mm,
and because I'm a solo traveler, I do meet people, but it's a lot about learning about yourself and what you're capable of, and like how much you can push yourself in terms of like just everything about life. And it's a
right.
lot about troubleshooting, because there's like always situations that come up to you that I think in the regular life you wouldn't really experience that.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have the situation, you have to like figure out and make a decision on the spot, and then figure out what's your next move. And so it's kind of like doing those over and over, and sometimes it does get tiring, because you get exhausted because they keep happening, and you're kind of like a bit stressed because those problems keep repeating. But I think it's like the con is the con those cons happen because of being like unprepared or being inexperienced with that. Because at the beginning, I used to have these like fear of like flights and like security checks, because
Yeah.
it's just kind of like something that I think everyone has at the beginning. But
Mm-hmm.
now I'm like, just go in, get your like bag of liquids, get it
Yeah.
scanned, get over it, and then just walk. It doesn't take like more than like 5 minutes for me
Right.
anymore. But back then it was like a really big stress. That's just like a really simple example, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like one of the biggest cons too, is like figuring that out and also being lonely. Uh, but that's just more about I think it's like personality and the pros. I'm trying to think of the pros. I mean, it's obviously like learning a lot. I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
really big pro. It's basically you are investing your time. You're basically paying for all this time to learn more about your surroundings, and every single minute, every single second is basically costs you a lot. So you spend that time learning about the culture, the people, surroundings, the city, the country that you're in, because it's all new to me. So it's a lot of like you kind of like just keep absorbing,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get to kind of like transfer that energy into designing, and you can either do like really good designs, or I mean sometimes it, like the transferring energy works really well, because it's like,
Yeah.
oh wow, like I saw like really good brandings outside, and now I kind of like see how the hell, like when I was in Switzerland, I saw so much Helvetica, dude.
Yeah.
It was
I
so
bet.
much. It was so good. It was like a paradise of Helvetica. It was like really good. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, this is actually how it's used, like not like I used to or something. So
Right.
you kind of
That
like,
Swiss design.
yeah, the Swiss designs are incredible. I was like completely like fully just amazed by it. So yeah, I think the pros is kind of like learning and seeing new things and being generally like inspired by
Mm-hmm.
everything. So those are the pros, I believe.
Yeah.
And the cons is there's a lot of discomfort, a
Right.
lot of discomfort when you travel like this.
I feel like
And
they almost go together. Like the pros are that you get all these new experiences and all this stuff you get to absorb and hopefully inspire you and transfer that into like your design work. But then those same
mhm.
new experiences and like all this stuff happening is what can also distract you or stress you out and get you away from the design work.
Dude, 100%. I think you explained it better than I did. It's like it's exactly that, because sometimes you're just kind of like tired. Like I cannot absorb anymore. My
Yeah.
cup is full, so I
Hmm.
need to like throw out the cup, or like refill it, or like drink it or something.
Do
Yeah.
you like, cause I've seen some of your pictures where you'll be anywhere from like, a more urban like area where you're working around like maybe a coffee shop or like a busy restaurant. And then I've also seen you in like the Alps or like in these crazy rolling hills and you're just on your laptop when in like in nature. What environment do you think makes you like, what environment do you work better in out of those two contrasting ones?
I think definitely the
Mm-hmm.
urban environment, because you have um, Wi-Fi, internet, and also
Right.
plugs where you can like just quickly charge your whatever the devices you need. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
do have like a battery pack that I carry around with me all the time, that I can charge it with me. When in the Alps, in the wilderness, I don't do it like as often, but you just get like, when you're like wearing headphones and you're like sitting in a coffee shop, and you're probably like listening to either music or something.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I listen to like nature sounds really
Mm-hmm.
loud, so like raindrops or something.
Right.
But when you're in the nature out there, you don't need to listen to that. It's already there. So you're kind of like you're there without headphones,
Yeah.
and you're like just sitting in this like you hear the wind just like slapping at your face,
Mm-hmm.
and then you hear distant cows just like mooing in there, and then you hear birds and everything. So it's this like breeze, this peace that you get, that you feel,
Mm-hmm.
and with that, kind of like that again, you absorb that energy and then you kind of transfer it. But when you're in a coffee
Right.
shop, you see a lot of people moving. It's a lot of movement. Everything's fast. Coffee, people talking, a lot of clings and clangs. It's a lot of fast, fast, fast. So if you want to focus, go to a coffee shop and put a hat on, because when you put a hat on, it covers like 50% of the vision on top, so you don't get
Yeah.
distracted. You just see people going back and forth, and you just like focus, and you get things done
Right.
really fast. So
I
that's
kind of like that. like I like when it's busy, but only if I'm able to do what you said, like successfully kind of block out like 80% of it or whatever. Cause I like when it's like just distracting enough to where I know I'm like in a different space and there's stuff going on. It kind of inspires me to like do my own thing when I see other people kind of working and stuff. I feel like if I was in the too nice of the nature spot, like I would just want to not work because it's so like nice to just relax, you know?
I get that too. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's also the thing. I think when I was in Switzerland, around the coffee shop too as well. I just walked around and then you just see mountains and everything. And
Yeah.
then you just go and you just sit after a bit of a walk, you kind of like exhausted your physical energy, but
Hmm.
your inner like a mental energy is still so high and you need to get it out. So you
Yeah.
just how do I get it out is by designing and just doing
Right.
whatever. Yeah.
What has been your favorite place so far to like, I guess you said UK, right? But like has that been your favorite place for both traveling and work, or like what's been your favorite place as like while you were working?
For me, my favorite, it's really hard to decide because each place that I've been to had like really different experiences. For example, in UK, when I went to UK, I met a lot of friends from like
Yeah,
different
saw that.
communities and like designers. It was like amazing. And then when I
That's
went to
fun.
Norway, I saw the Northern Lights. And then
Oh wow.
my host from the Airbnb, she was also a tour guide who also helped me around a lot.
Mm,
She was really nice and she had a really cute dog too. So it was like all those experiences. And then when I was in Spain, there was this guy who owned the house by the beach where I stayed at the Airbnb as well. And then he was just like so chill and he would like tell me about his life. You just kind of like have these
that's cool.
experiences and each place has its like own unique experience. But I think in terms of work, my favorite place to work in, I think it would be mm, the busiest place. I feel like I worked a lot when I was in France.
Mm,
France and Spain. I worked a lot because not only, I mean, I had a lot of work at that time, and also like having being in the capital like Barcelona and Paris,
yeah.
sitting in a coffee shop like eating croissants, or like in Barcelona just like eating what do you call this, empanadas, and like
Yeah, yeah.
it's it was like really like helped my focus and like just kind of like gave me motivation a lot. So I would
Mm.
say those places were really good to work.
With all the moving around and switching time zones and kind of like being in these different environments, how are you able to like stay on top of your work and like build out any kind of routine if you're always in like different places and different times?
As I've been traveling, you kind of slowly figure out who you are and how you work.
Hmm.
Um, at the beginning, I just tried to like do work whenever I can, but it got messy. Didn't really
Yeah.
work out, and then I started kind of like limiting myself and then scheduling myself when I work, at what times I work, and that really helped me. So currently, what I do is like wake up in the mornings, uh, whenever in the mornings I wake up, work until like the noon or like for a couple hours, go for a walk, have lunch, and then after lunch or after like walking around, you come back to work a couple more hours, and then in the evening you have dinner, or like you walk, or you basically reward yourself with something like go to
Hmm.
the movies, or like go to the park, or I don't know, play video games, but there are no video games on the Mac, so you just play video games on your phone.
Yeah.
uh, so this routine kind of like it's kind of like a Pomodoro, but in
Mm.
hours, so
Right.
it's been helping me a lot. And some days, obviously, I do wake up late. Like by late, I mean like I wake up like 11 or even 12 sometimes at
Mm.
noon, 12 or 1. And I like skip my morning. So what do I do is I don't work in the morning. I just do my regular walk and then work later on. So those become like half
Okay.
day kind of. So they do
Right.
happen, but yeah. So you just kind of like adjust as you go.
Right. It's interesting to I see how other people do stuff too, because like there's this I watch these videos on YouTube. They're like this guy Nathaniel Drew. He makes these videos that are called like living like the masters or something, and he basically finds these like really successful people, like, or like noble people from the past, like Da Vinci, Picasso, Maya Angelou, and like they all have these really weird schedules, and he tries to live like how they lived for a month. And it's pretty interesting because some of their schedules like before modern times are really weird. Like they'll work for like 2 hours, and then like in the middle of the day they'll just nap for like 6 hours or something, and then work at midnight to 4 a.m. Like before the 9 to 5 kind of corporate world, everyone just did what it seems like everyone did what was more comfortable to them rather than what like someone made them do. It feels like nowadays you almost have to an extent be on everyone's time so you can talk to them and stuff. Even if you like working at night, you got to be a little bit more available to like, you know, email or whatever other bullshit.
I get that. Yeah, it's hard to adjust to that like 9 to 5. But you know what? I do miss 9 to 5s. The reason is I think that limitation you had, it's like that focus time you had. And after 5 o'clock, you just feel this like really big, like happy moment. Like finally, I'm out. That moment, I haven't had that moment in a while.
Yeah, I haven't had that
like,
for like 2 years since.
yeah. So I'm like, okay, everyone's saying it's weekend, yeah. And I'm like, huh? What day is it?
Yeah.
It's Friday already?
Yeah, especially during COVID. Like I feel like, I don't know, like I went on vacation this past week, but before that, I feel like I didn't like stop working for more than a few days in a row for like since COVID started, honestly. Like I just been working, and like kind of I'll go off on the weekend, but when you're working for yourself, it's a lot harder to separate like the work-life balance because like there's no one telling you when or when not to do something. So even if you tell yourself like, oh, I need to relax today, you'll always end up back at like the computer or some shit. And it's really hard to, I think that's like the hardest part about working for yourself, for me at least, is giving myself enough time off, because it's really essential. Like you might not think you're burning out, but it's happening even if it's slow.
Yeah, I think I have a similar situation, but the other way. I've been having too much time off, and I think I'm burning out from that. You know, like I'm like,
Yeah,
I want to design. I
right.
need to design something. Like,
I feel
yeah.
that. I felt that even after like I went to Puerto Rico for like 10 days or 8 days. And like I said, I haven't taken a long break in a while. So even at like day 6, I was like, I didn't have a computer or anything. And I was starting to feel a little bit anxious. Yeah.
Yeah. This feels too
like,
nice.
I was like, I'm not allowed to rest this long, you know? Like you start to almost feel like this weird guilt, even though that's normal. You're supposed to relax every here and there.
Yeah, that guilt tripping yourself in those situations, like it happens to me all the time too. I'm like, sometimes I like ask myself like, is this really right what I'm doing? And then you kind of like pull back yourself to reality, and it's like, well, why not, kind of. If I
Right.
can, then why not?
Like what kind of projects are you mainly working on these days?
So lately I've been working a lot on motion graphics, and I got lucky, very lucky, to be working on the BN conference, BN Conf, which is by under consideration.
The brand new or whatever, that,
The
right?
brand new. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they reached out to me, and then they wanted to have the exact animation as I do on my Instagram. And I was like shocked, because it's like, I mean, who would want that? You know, it's so hard to read.
Yeah.
And basically they wanted to be exactly as I do it, like nothing really changed. And I was like really happy. So that was like really fortunate. And when I worked on it, it's like I made over 220 different animations.
Wow.
That's like, I basically like burned out so much after that. Like, I don't want to see this type anymore. And that's why I haven't like posted in a while on my Instagram either. But, and because of that as well, a lot of people started coming to me and asking me about the same kind of like morphing typography stuff. That's what they call it, either like twitching type, morphing type, weird type.
Kinetic or something.
No one calls it kinetic. I don't even call it kinetic. I don't even know what I would call it. It's just like the type that goes like kind of like just
Yeah.
changes as it goes. Yeah, so I would like I got a lot of projects that I made them look like that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And other than that, I do also like graphic design for YouTube music. So YouTube music playlists, they
Mm-hmm.
they reached out to me, and then basically we do like covers, playlist covers.
Mm-hmm.
They
Are
give
they
me like
animated?
a no, they're not animated. They're just like
Okay.
you know how on Spotify you see like the square
Yeah, it's
music
just like
covers.
album art, basically.
Yeah, album art.
Yeah,
So that's what I do as
that's cool.
well a lot. And they ask me like they tell me they want this and that, and then I just do what they ask, and that's about it. It's like nothing really crazy stuff.
That's what makes you like unique. Like a lot of people do branding, a lot of people do like that stuff that looks nice, and there's always going to be someone doing that. But for example, like this, motion or morphing type, whatever you want to call it, that's very like you. If I saw anyone else do that, I would think that you did it. And that's like, I think a mark of like a successful like style or like, trademark or whatever you want to call it. And I kind of remember when you came up with this, like you started doing it a little bit on like some of the Elliot like challenges and stuff. And then I slowly saw it just like, you basically just, it took over your life. It looks like it, you made it into a whole world.
Because in the beginning, I was like, I remember the exact moment when I just realized that this is actually what I like to do, or like this is what people see in me. It's when I made the post, "What is my style?" Ironically, the post expands just like what I
Yeah.
do now, and I was like ranting. I think I was like burnt out, depressed, everything in one
Right.
paragraph. Because I write a lot in my posts too, and then I just
Yeah.
express my feelings, how I feel, and then all that stuff. And I remember expressing like, "Oh, I don't know what I'm doing, guys. Is this really my style? Is this really what I want to be? Is this how it's gonna go?" And like
Yeah.
I
Having a
was just like,
crisis in the caption.
I feel like every designer has that. Like everyone goes
Yeah.
through that, you know, and multiple times, not just once. You just keep going through them over and over. And then after that, I realized I was like, huh, wait, this is it. I should just
Right.
keep doing this. And I keep practicing and keep doing it. And I'm here now. And now I'm like, now you know what? I'm a bit stuck in this. It's like, okay, now I have this style that I keep doing it, but I cannot do anything else.
Right.
I cannot post about anything else. I'm only known for this. You know, if I like post like random illustration, it's not gonna be relevant, consistent. I
That's
mean,
kind of the
people would say,
duality of it. You have like, you want a style because you're like, I feel the other way where I'm too much all over the place sometimes. And then when you get a style, you're like, oh, I want to do other shit. So it's almost like, the grass is always greener somewhere on the other side, whatever the phrase is.
yeah, yeah. But I think it's a journey. It's a journey that we all get onto, and then we figure it out as we go. And which is just
Right.
like, I mean, I try to at least enjoy this because it's really fun, like what I'm doing, I think, and also that I get to do this. And a lot of people
Yeah.
ask me about tutorials and how it's done, and I'm like, I should make a tutorial.
Dude, people are too lazy, man. Like, I feel like your tutorials is not that. Like, I even said, oh, what you do is so hard. And like, what I meant is I don't want to do all the steps. Like, I feel like people want it easy, and I don't think that they'll appreciate your After Effects knowledge because it's pretty in depth, I'm sure.
It does get to it, but it's very simple at the same time. It's just very tedious. You need to
That's
have a
what it
lot of
is. Yeah.
passion. Yeah, you need to have a lot of passion into it. It's like, I guess it's like growing rice, because rice is like so tiny, so
Yeah.
small. You grow it like one bit by bit, and it requires special like water level, or special height or something. Same thing with the coffees as well. I'm not really sure how it works, but I'm just like giving
Yeah.
as an example. Like,
Right. All the
yeah.
little things make up one big nice thing.
Yeah,
Have you done a lot
exactly.
of stuff like since you've done like the brand new, and then I've seen some of your posts blow up with the, like you're saying, with the type. I think it was like the this recent one actually, even the you can say no. Does that like are a lot of the inquiries you're getting now like wanting that, like they want that typography stuff?
A lot of people message me about that typography stuff. They just ask me like, either ask me how it's done or can you animate my name.
Yeah,
I have a project. Please reply ASAP.
yeah.
I
Let's
need
build.
this. I need this to be animated, like or some. A lot of them is like I need. You
Right.
know, it's a lot of like, okay, that's great that you need it, but yeah, it's just I do get a lot of them, and then I reply to every single message that I get that are like that
Same.
make sense. Sometimes they don't make sense, but I try to reply at least like 99% of them. I just reply and then
Mm-hmm.
say like, okay, I have like saved reply template
Okay.
that just said like, hello, this is my like like I'm available from this time to this time. If this interests you, please email me like the
Mm-hmm.
brief or anything, and this is my rate, and let's chat kind of thing. Like a very simple template.
The email's the best
And
filter because most people won't even email you, and then you know they're not
that
serious.
how hard is it just to email? It's so I don't understand.
Right.
It's like after that text, some people they just like reply back to it saying like, oh, but how much is this? Oh, but what about this? Oh,
Yeah.
but they keep continuing. And I'm like, can you please, uh, if you have like a brief, I can fully explain it to you in the email. I just
Mm-hmm.
like put it like that, and then they just either like ghost me or like they just never reply, or
Right.
I don't know. It's like it's weird too. And usually, I think the ratio in like 20 messages, only one
Mm-hmm.
goes through, at
Right.
least, that goes successful. Sometimes it's a good client, other times it's like,
And
okay,
then
client.
half the time they email you like the same thing. It's like not even more information. They're just like, yo, I
Yeah,
need a
and
logo G. And I'm like, all right, well, what do you want? What do you want me to do?
I exactly there was this funny moment when I like got an email saying like just hello, just like a
Yeah.
body text, hello.
How are
Like
you? Yeah. I mean, that's
it's
so,
like okay. But like you can't get mad at them because I
no.
think they're not doing this intentionally. It's like and then I always have this like urge to help and kind of help them and
Mm-hmm.
not to explain or to mansplain anything, but trying to like okay like teach them the proper ways of communication basically.
Sure.
So I just basically start asking them lots of questions. Hey, like I have like a list of questions that like really basic questions like, hey, what's the project about? What do you plan to do with it? Like when do you need it for? Like really simple stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like deadlines and stuff. So I just kind of like please fill them out kind of thing. And
Right.
then some of them do, some of them just skip it and then continue their stuff.
What do you think's the
So
biggest, like, if when you ask those kind of questions and the answers you get, what do you think's one of the biggest, like, red flags that answer that they can give you that makes you not want to work with them anymore?
ASAP,
Yeah.
ASAP. It's
ASAP.
such a big turn off.
Right.
I need this ASAP.
The one that
Hey,
I
hey,
hate that this, I know they're going to be difficult when I've had clients ask me before we start anything, they say, how many revisions do I get? And I'm like, why do we need to do revisions? Like, we haven't even started and you already want to redo it. And I'm just like, oh, I know
interesting.
they're going to be picky. That's like how I feel about that.
I'm trying to think of like other red flags. It's just I think you start noticing them when you ask more questions and
Hmm.
you just like start asking questions and you kind of see them. So yeah, there was like this moment as well when I told them my daily price, but they thought it was the entire project price,
Mm,
but the project was like really big project. So they're like,
right.
oh yeah, let's go, let's do this. And I don't know how I kind of like because the communication like there was no red flags. They were like
Right.
very professional, very on point, very direct. Everything was like perfect up until the contract, and I was like reading the contract. It's like, huh? This is the entire project? And I like email back like saying like, sorry, am I reading this right? Like, is this the entire project? So like, read your contract.
Mm-hmm.
And when I read it out, and then he's like, yeah, that's what you said. No, and I'm like, no, that's one day, and this project is gonna take me at least 2 weeks to complete. And then he blasts off. He like gets his mask off and like just like all caps replies back like, and I'm like, sorry, I cannot do business
Yeah.
like this. Just close it like this. And yeah, it's hard. Like I think freelancing is really hard because you have to like one like market yourself and also manage yourself and account yourself and
Mm-hmm.
so many things. Yeah.
One thing
And
I wanted to ask you, kind of since I've known of you or interacted with you online, I feel like you are very like, I don't know, you're like an overachiever. That's how I kind of look at you. Like when I see you do stuff, you do it like to the max degree, and I respect that a lot. Like even, you know, your Instagram post, you'll put like 10 in one thing, or like when we Elliot does these like you know, design
design chefs.
challenge, the design chefs things. I haven't done that in a long time, but like he'll give a prompt or whatever, and then everyone's like, oh, Geo, like where's Geo's at? Because then everyone will barely finish like their one poster in an hour or whatever, and he's built the whole world and like puts out 8 like posters and like a brand identity, and he animated it, and he like filmed a movie somehow or some shit, like all in the 1 hour. And like, does that like, I guess, have you always been that way, or like how'd you kind of get like that? Maybe I'm not sure the question.
Uh,
I'm just want to know your feeling about all that.
yeah, I get it. I think I've always been like this. I think it's also kind of like double-edged sword that I had
Mm-hmm.
I had this surprise factor. I always wanted to surprise,
Yeah,
no matter what, anyone,
the big reveal.
whatever I do, like just push it as much as I can. Like
Yeah,
I don't have my limits. I don't know my limits, and some people know their limits and they know that, okay, I'm sorry, I cannot do this. Like, you know, they say up front, but I don't. I just say yes, and then I burn out 10 times on the way. But you know what? I got it done. Great.
right.
On to the next one. I keep doing this up until like, I mean, still doing it. Um, in the past, before I found graphic design, like way back in it was like 10 years ago, even 10 years ago, I think,
Mm-hmm.
when there was Facebook, and when Facebook is still there, but like no one goes on it anymore, I feel like.
Right.
But anyway, there was this group called Daily Speed Painting, and
Mm.
it was a 20-minute challenge. They would just like post like 3 random topics, and it's it's just a community thing. You read the challenge and you pick one, and then you draw it within 20 minutes, and then
Mm.
you put it on. So a lot of people would like push each other to do like as much as you can within 20 minutes. So with that, doing it for years, I developed this like skill of like shortcuts. Like you just like jump, okay, if I do this texture on top of it, it's gonna make it look like that right away. It doesn't matter
Mm.
because what matters is how you see it, not how it's done.
Right.
So I kept doing it over and over way before I like found graphic design. And when I found graphic design on my first job, I built this entire project, entire branding for a waterfall closing event in After Effects.
Mm.
All the printing files were made in After Effects only because they said we wanted to look like 80s, and I couldn't recreate the same effect in Photoshop or Illustrator. I tried, I couldn't get the same effect as I did in After Effects. So I decided to build everything in After Effects, and then I kind of like just blew their minds like, okay, there you go. This is what we can do, you know? Or at least
Mm.
this is what I can do for you. And they were like really happy with it. Unfortunately, they let me go 4 months later because I kept being late with projects because I kept burning out, and then they kept giving me more, and
Yeah.
I couldn't really like manage myself properly. So that's the downside of it. I think the downside of it is you say yes to the things you don't know, and then
Right.
You realize too late how like you should have said no.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I could see you
So,
also maybe like spending too much time on one little thing when you got to get to all this next stuff, but you really want to go crazy on like this one letter or whatever it may be, you know?
yeah, that it does happen. It does happen.
Yeah. That,
100%.
then that speed painting thing, that was like that's your origin story right there. And then that's why you're so good at the design chef, because you have all that training. It's cool though, man. I mean, like the cons of that, I don't think outweigh the pros, because you put out like some really cool shit, and it's I like to like it gets sometimes I see you do that stuff and I'm like I want to be mad because I'm like, how did he do all that? Like I my shit took me like this long to do this, and then other times I'm just like, damn, like that's cool, because like I could tell you're passionate about it. Like it's hard to fake that like passion or like that love. Like someone that's just doing this for the wrong reasons, they wouldn't put in that kind of work. So it's cool to see.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that for you saying
Yeah.
that as well. And yeah, thank you. I
Yeah.
think it's also I feel like there's always someone that is better than you, because
Yeah.
sometimes I compare myself, which is a bad thing to do, but still happens. It's like I just look up to them, and then you kind of like see where they are now, and then you're like, oh, I'm still doing Photoshop stuff while they're doing Octane 3D stuff
Right.
and crazy like film renders, and I'm like, I want to get there. I want to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel that. Sometimes I see something so cool that I'm like, I just want to stop whatever I'm doing and only do this from now on. But then I'll see something else
Yeah.
the next week that's just as interesting. And I'm like, fuck, I just got to do my own thing, because I'm not going to be able to
Yeah.
keep up with all this.
Yeah. All we can do is like get inspired and just be like better ourselves than yesterday, I guess. At least that's how I see it.
Right.
And yeah.
What do you see yourself doing the rest of this year? Do you have any travels planned or any exciting projects coming up or anything?
I don't have any exciting projects yet, but I do have some travels planned. I plan to go to the BN conference.
Oh
They
yeah,
invited
cool.
me to come to
The
it,
one you
and I
worked on,
said,
right?
yeah, exactly. So
Nice.
I'm like really like keen to see it in real life. So I'll be going there in October this year, which is like in 2 months. So it's crazy. Like
It's in
it's
Texas,
October in
right?
2 months. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's coming up so fast. Are you in LA, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean I'll be in LA after, so maybe we can like
Yeah. Yeah.
see each other.
Let me know.
Um,
I'm always trying to do that, because everyone I know lives somewhere else, it seems.
yeah. Uh, so after that, I think I'll be going to Australia for a bit.
Oh, cool.
Australia, New Zealand, just like to see how it is, and then coming back home for Christmas, New Year, to Canada. And yeah, there's this guy on YouTube. He's from like I don't think he's from Yes Theory. I don't know if you know Yes Theory. This guy, he visited every single country in the world within 10 years.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, maybe I should try that.
Yeah. That'd be
Yeah.
cool.
That-
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, hopefully you get to do that, and I'm excited to see what you keep doing with all your typography stuff and projects and traveling. I like seeing the pictures and everything. And then everyone check out Geo. You can look at his Instagram, Geo Jum. And thank you again for coming on, man. It was cool.
Oh, thank you very much for this podcast and like this opportunity. Like really grateful for this, Jesse.